welcome to this new episode of Sophia Speaks. For those who are unfamiliar, my name is Megan. I embody Sophia Christ Consciousness in the form of the frequency called the Sophia Pearl. To learn more, to understand what all of that means, I invite you to watch, I don't remember what I called it, but my very first episode in this series. And that episode will really kind of explain what the Sophia Pearl is and who I am and where I come in from this authority to speak from this vantage point, sharing the love and the wisdom of Sophia Christ Consciousness with humanity as we move through the reclamation of the collective all into the vibration of divine love. This episode has been one that I have been avoiding recording for quite a while, if I'm honest with you. And it's been really healing, actually, to have to sit with myself and examine why that was necessary, and to be with those points of stagnation that were within this human body. At this point, I don't know. At the point of recording this, I don't know what we're going to call this episode quite yet, but it is about things like professionalism. It is about employment. It is about the masks that we wear as we combine ego, and as we move through the institutions and the structures that have been placed here that serve to sort of confine humanity and give human energy direction that moves humanity away from its connection to source, and frankly enslaves humanity, sets it up in all of these programs and blueprints that are not healthy or aligned for it. So I wish to share with you sort of how Megan moved through those frameworks and where source was and all of that, leading and guiding me until reaching a stage of liberation and ultimately of healing from all of that. I wear a hoodie today because professionalism teaches us to show up a certain way, to look and appear within a certain framework, within a certain structure that really kind of calcifies independence and authentic truth, authentic expression. I don't know how many human beings really desire within their deepest essence, within their deepest soul, to wear business casual every day. And I'm not talking about millennials going to the club in the early aughts. What do you want to wear? What do you want to have your body clothed in for itself, for its own existence, for its own being? And in my authentic state, I am wearing leggings or sweatpants and a sweater or a tank top. Or I might be in my bathrobe. Honestly, love my bathrobe. I meet clients in my bathrobe because that is what my soul feels its natural expression is. It's in a state of peace with itself. It's in a state of comfort, and it's not interested in what others think. It's not interested in how it needs to perform for what, so that others judge it a certain way. Other human beings are going to judge you no matter how you present. So you may as well just be yourself, right? You may as well show up for other human beings, but not for them, but for yourself. Okay. All right. So talking about the Megan and being in these institutional structures, I've explained in previous videos, I grew up in a very religious kind of upbringing, staunch Lutheran, for anyone who may be aware of what that means. And my family were so Lutheran that other Lutherans were considered too liberal, that we were of a branch that was much smaller and more conservative and far more restrictive in its living, and so far restrictive that its connection to divine love was corrupted and lost along the way. And as a child, trying to navigate my existence within these very rigid rules was challenging. But yeah. I went to a lot of schools, elementary schools growing up, because my family moved around a fair amount. And each school that I went to had a different culture, had a different sort of focus in terms of its education and what was taught. And I was a very liberal arts sort of minded child. I really loved reading literature. I loved writing. I loved doing creative things, making stuff. I made stuff out of paper constantly. And art itself, fine art. I loved play when it involved human interaction. And I would play with my stuffed animals, and I would play that I had a store, or I would play that I was a teacher. And at one point when I was, I think around 10 years old, we moved to a place where the school was very science and tech sort of focused. And I honestly, while I appreciate the value of knowledge, this was not my passion. I wanted to create. I wanted to explore and experience and to share. In high school, I took, I think, like 9 credits, all with one teacher, because this one teacher was the only one who taught humanities at a very, again, science and tech-based high school. And I ended up pursuing a degree in history for post-secondary. My first post-secondary experience was learning history. And I think I talk about this in episode 2 a little bit. Part of that was to heal a lot of ancestral trauma on my own front. I am a German descendant, and so there's a lot to unpeel and unpack being German. And but I also studied aspects of Canadian history, global history, and that was institutionally what I was focused on. I think I will share in my next video other aspects of my university experience that were really important in this whole bridge of Sophia and being. But just when we're talking about the institutional stuff, I'm going to just talk about the history degree at this point. And I wasn't the world's greatest student. I believe I got into university more from nepotism than from my own personal capacity, which I found out long after I graduated. I was unsuccessful in getting into a master's program at the same school. So I was an all right student. But my passion was about the human experience and getting into how people live, how people exist, what we're all feeling, what patterns there are throughout human history. And this has become so pivotal in this work with Sophia, for being able to see things from a lens of compassion. And had I gone through life without having had that experience of learning about history and learning about reality for a lot of different people, I would have gone through life with the biases that were imprinted on me from my parents, which I'm very grateful to have not had to be stuck in. And so that experience was a liberation from sort of calcified and boxed mindsets about how to be, how to operate, how to see, experience, how to witness others. And I am very grateful for that. I graduated university in 2018. And so this was when the big stock market crash was. And having done a degree in something that was, in the humanities and not very translatable into the real world, I right when it was time for me to apply to jobs where a degree was enough to apply for a lot of jobs. I remember there was one opportunity that I was looking for with a certain municipal government, and there were 150 opportunities one day and then 4 the next. That crash, that economic crash, had completely eliminated opportunity for people in my position to have jobs that were kind of stable, conducive to stability going forward. And so that was a disappointment. Where that led me was to working at a call center down the road. And this was, to my ego, not the easiest thing. This was not where I had seen myself going after graduating from school. And I ended up working at this call center for quite a while, for a couple years. And again, all of this was, like, looking back on it, set up and orchestrated for part of the human development, for part of my experience with Source. And working at this call center taught me more and more deeply about the human experience. Conversing with anybody and everybody from all walks of life, from all sectors of society. I am Canadian, but this was a call center for an American population, and I connected with and got to experience souls and the heart spaces of thousands and thousands of people that I would never have had access to in my otherwise privileged upbringing up to this point. And there were dark parts to it. I ultimately left because my life had been threatened. For some reason, I didn't answer someone's question the way they wanted. And that was challenging, but it opened my eyes and it opened my heart. I'm not going to take you through every single job I've ever done in my life. I actually have made a list in preparation for this episode, and every job I've taken, I've gone through and I've looked at what I learned in that job and the skills that I learned on the human level and on the spiritual level, and how that connects to my current experience and this work with the Sophia Pearl. And every single job, every single one, there are almost 30, if I'm counting internships and co-ops and things like that as well, has been part of this, has been part of embodiment, has been part of my spiritual calling, of what Source is calling on this body to do. And the the truth of the matter is, at the depths of all of this, that this is how it is for humanity. This is how it is in our human existence and in our human lives, is we may feel like we are wasting our time, or we may feel like we're not good enough for a given circumstance. Perhaps we're in a circumstance where, and I got fired all kinds of times, guys, just letting you know. Perhaps you've been in a circumstance where you have seen yourself as failed, or other people have seen you as failed, but you haven't. Okay, and I want this to resonate with you so deeply. You have not failed in your life. If there is a direction that you thought you were going in, and then all of a sudden things fell apart, it's not because of you. It's because those circumstances met you as far as they were meant to. And you went in that trajectory for as long as was good for you. You learned the lesson. And when you were done learning the lesson, if things unraveled and they fell apart, it's because the field could no longer sustain you. And that's right. You could no longer fit in the box. You could no longer pretend to be a part of the program. You learned the skill and it delivered what it needed to you. And then you moved on. Everything comes into your life for a reason. Everything comes into your life for a season. People are shifting jobs. They are upgrading their skill sets. This culture of work is changing so rapidly because you can no longer be contained. And each place where you are learning new skills, you are becoming part of a new environment, you are learning, it's all part of your own personal school that has been set out for you from the divine. In my life, I have learned legal skills, I've learned business skills, I've learned accounting skills, I've learned teaching skills, I've learned connecting skills, I learned how to build a website, I've learned, I learned how to start a business in other capacities. I've learned, goodness, I've learned food prep. I love to cook, and some of my experiences, my job experiences, taught me efficiency in the kitchen, and some of my experiences taught me how to supervise others, how to manage others and hold space for others as they hold space for you and support you in your work. Every single walk of life that I have gone through has led me to this work now. There is not a day that went by in all of that was not applicable to this moment, to this current growth. And so as we look back at all that we have been in our lives, we can honor our past. We can release shame. We can release judgment of our past selves. We can release belief that we were unworthy or we were not good enough. And I love how this thread runs through and is true for all of us, regardless of what that path actually looked like. It was all intentional. It was all divinely intentional for us from source. Why? So that we could be strongly rooted in ourselves as we move forward into the new earth. And as we bring the collective all into the vibration of divine love. Remembering that we are here to be here. We are on earth to be present and to be an active part of humanity, to be living life as a human being and a divine one simultaneously. All of the skills that you have learned in all of those institutions and all of those preset programs, all of those places where they were trying to siphon your energy from you, all of those skills were so that it would be easier to live as part divine, part human being. So your embodiment would go more smoothly. I think I mentioned in episode 1 that when Sophia came into this body, she didn't really know how to drive a car. She really wanted to drive. That, ironically, driving and eating cake, those were her really big main passions for being here. But it was up to the human. It was up to Megan to teach Sophia how to drive. Megan learned how to drive. Megan went through the white knuckling. Megan went through the hours on hour. Oh my goodness. Of 2 hours a day I'd spend on the major highways, sometimes commuting. And Megan learned that so that when the time was right, Sophia could come in and experience going fast, experience the pleasure and the joy that came from driving, experience the pleasure and the joy that came from building a website, experience the pleasure and the joy that came from doing bookkeeping and accounting and filing taxes. All of the experience that was built on was for source. All of the drudgery, all of the work of the human experience was so that source could amalgamate and come in and be with it, be human, be here, be now. All of the work that we do, divine human beings, it is all divine. If you are in a position right now as you receive this, a lot of people who have their spiritual awakenings often leave the workforce, finding their calling in something else. And that's not to say that that is the only way. Just because you have had some awakenings doesn't mean that your calling is necessarily going to be outside of the formal institutions. Perhaps your calling is to go deeper into institutionalism and disrupt it from within and to love it from within. If you feel called in that direction, that is your direction. If that makes your heart expand, that is where you must go. That is how you must lead and go forward. And it all is relevant. It all is worthy. Christos frequency, Sophia Christ conscious frequency, it arrives where you are, as long as you are open to allow it. If where you are is not where you are meant to be, then you will find your external circumstances uncomfortable. But you already know what that is like. You already know what discomfort in your external reality is like because you move through it all the time, don't you? Okay. So if you feel like you are stuck, if you feel like you are at a place where you have learned what you need to learn and it is actually time for you to expand beyond that place, listen to your heart. Allow source to come in and to guide you. And where your body opens, where you visualize the next step and your body feels expansive, that is the direction that is calling you. Where you visualize something in your body contracts, that is what is no longer meant for you. You can flow and you can grow as you are meant to. All right, beloved ones. So for each of these episodes of Sophia Speaks, we use quantum codes to help us to integrate the lessons of each transmission. Quantum codes are like they're basic elements, these source frequencies. That as we repeat these quantum codes, they anchor their frequency here into our human experience. And by so doing, by letting these codes be part of our conscious awareness, by repeating them, by holding their meaning, we strengthen and we build consciously the new universe. So this code that we're going to be doing today is really a code for human mastery in aid of spiritual embodiment. This code is 774318. 774318. 774318. This code is to help us to sort of honor and anchor in what we have learned as we have traversed human institutions, right? Taking our experience with what has not been aligned here on earth, has not been within the vibration of divine love for us to necessarily be put through all of these institutions, but we can appreciate the benefit of having gone through each of these experiences as part of our mastery of being human and being here. It helps us to release resentment that we may feel, an attachment to any beliefs that we may hold about those experiences. I know for myself personally, so many of those experiences caused loops of anger and frustration that I've held on to for a very long time. And this code helps us to release and to ease some of that pain, honestly, that comes from this. We weren't meant to be here to be put in boxes and to be subjected to others. But this helps us to reframe our perception around what we've experienced. We are at this threshold point, right? The new world is not going to have the same toxic structures, but for where we are, we had to walk through that mire in order to sort of to come to a point of arrival within this human existence, this human system for our being. And so if that has been our experience, to appreciate that there was value in what we've gone through. This helps us to reach a more natural rhythm within and our own embodiment of our higher self, our source consciousness. Not that our embodiment has just come out of nowhere and is this shocking surprise, but that all of this has been part of a divine plan for us. This code also helps us to integrate the reality of our source aspects within these bodies, where we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Okay, we are honoring source within all of this. Everything that we've everything we've walked through has just been training, right? That's it. Just training. And we can move forward now knowing that we've learned what we were meant to learn and that we are here where we are now with the degree of mastery that we have for a reason, for a divine purpose. And that's actually something that we can celebrate, that we can lean into. beloved ones, releasing the false scaffolding, but honoring the lesson and holding that with you here. In this state of acceptance, perhaps a slight discomfort or extreme discomfort, meeting you here and arriving and honoring you as master of all that you have done and all that you have learned and all that you get to now carry forward without the weight of the garbage and the attachment. In this space, beloved, I love you.